How we doing today, guys? This video is actually for teachers. Whether you're teaching elementary school, middle school, high school, college, for everybody. I think the real question that a lot of people ask when teachers are placed with disabled students is, how do I get them to learn? And how do I connect with them? And most importantly, when they're not behaving, how do I deal with that problem? Now, I'm not going to please a lot of people when I say this, because, this is a very controversial subject. Just because a lot of people have different perspectives on how to approach a disabled kid. I would actually say, for the most part, the most important thing for me, at least growing up, to know from my teachers is that there were consequences to my actions. The fact that I knew if I got mad and I decided to hit somebody, the school would hit back. Not literally, but I'd be punished for that. And kids in general, and everybody in general, respond to consequences. But it's the same thing for a disabled kid. So, I had a lot of teachers when I was in elementary school who were kind of on the more liberal side of teaching, where they had this perspective that disabled kids were kind of supposed to be excused from blame, and they were supposed to be, pretty much allowed to, do whatever they want, because it's kind of like we weren't responsible for our own actions. Now, that wasn't true with every teacher I had. I had my first grade teacher and my fourth grade teacher. I can name every teacher I've had up from preschool. I just have really good memory like that. That's another topic. My first grade and my fourth grade teacher were probably the best at enforcing discipline and enforcing consequences. Because when I was in those classes, not only did it keep me in line and it made things easier for the teacher because I understood those consequences very clearly, it also kept the other kids in line. So those 2 years, I really didn't get bullied a lot in the classroom because there was a very clear sense of order. There's this really, as I was saying before, with this whole liberal teaching style, there's also this philosophy that kids are supposed to have a lot more freedom than they actually should have. In my philosophy, I believe freedom's important. Kids should definitely learn how to do certain things for themselves, how to form their own identity, but it's really, really important for kids to learn about order, because I can definitely say to you, whether you're disabled or not, a lot of these kids who haven't had a lot of discipline and order as they were growing up, they tend to turn into adults who pretty much think they can do whatever they want. I've had a lot of friends who have gotten into trouble just because they haven't had a very good sense of discipline in their lives, and some of them are not very successful right now, and it's a shame. So that's one thing I can definitely say, just for all students in general, but especially for disabled students. Another thing I would say for teachers is, don't wait for the parents to explain the disability to you. You need to go out and do some research. And it doesn't mean that you have to write a whole research paper on it and turn it into your boss, but take at least a little bit of time to go on to Wikipedia and just read about disability that this kid has, just to get a basic idea, because then when a kid is acting a certain way that may be unusual, you'll know that that has to do with his disability. Now, how do you approach certain things that, like, let's say we have a situation where it's not a discipline issue, but it's a social issue. Well, here's a couple of things to keep in mind. Even though we may be disabled and we may have a little bit of trouble working with our social skills, we still feel the same amount of humiliation as a normal person would. So the worst thing you never want to do, never, ever, ever want to do, is to pull us out of the classroom for a social issue when we haven't done anything wrong. Like, if we do something wrong, like if we do something that's a discipline issue, of course pull us out of the classroom. We deserve it. But if it's like a social issue where I just won't stop talking about, if a kid won't stop talking about a certain subject matter, you know, the best thing to do, if you can, if it's not interfering with whatever project or whatever subject matter you're doing, you know, when the class is exiting, you can just stop the kid for a couple minutes and just say, you know, hey Billy, can I just talk to you for a little bit? Or, you know, can you just step into my office for a little bit? And then you just go over whatever the social problem is, just for a little bit. Now, it's easier said than done, I realize, because I know definitely when I was a kid, I didn't want to listen to whatever social problems I had. It really is, like, you want to have a sense of understanding as well. You want to get the kid to think and to trust you, because when the kid trusts you, you won't have to point out social problems to him. Like, the really good teachers that I have had when I was a kid, I would come to them with my problems. Literally. Even up through high school. Like, I had teachers who were pretty much like second guidance counselors for me. Just because I had so much trust for them. Even more than the guidance counselor I had at school. And I'd say the third thing, though, is even though you want to have an understanding for a kid's disability, you don't want to brush off all their problems as if it has everything to do with the disability. And one of the biggest problems that I had, especially with some of my guidance counselors, like at school, is that they kind of figured that every problem I had was related to my disability. You do have to realize that we're all basically kids, and that we're all going to have the same problems. So, if a kid with Aspergers or any other disability says, you know, Teach, I'm feeling depressed, and, you know, I really have felt like I don't really want to go to class. You know, you should take that just as seriously as if a normal kid says that. Those are really the three big things, you know, and I can go over them really quickly for you again. Strong sense of discipline, okay? Strong sense of understanding for whatever that child's disability may be. And third of all, take them seriously. You know, one of the things that is so important is that disabled kids really want to feel equal to other kids. A lot of us have a really, really big inferiority complex when we're in school, because I don't know any disabled kids that were the popular kid in high school. If any of my subscribers want to say otherwise, you know, feel free to post. But most of us, you know, we feel like we are less than our peers. And if the teacher does things to make us feel like we are less than our other peers, it causes a lot of problems. It certainly did for me. I had a really big inferiority complex when I was in school, and that caused me to be very angry at my peers when I was in school, and it really made it very difficult for me to interact and trust the people around me. That's all I got to say about that. And, you know, if teachers ever have any questions for me, they can always just send me a message here, or they can respond to this video, and I'll be sure to reply. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be sure to post a video up sometime soon when I get some more time. Thank you.